This one goes out to all little bros out there. Y'all be safe, man. Might not be my blood, but you my little bro. Care about you, so I really gotta let you know. The streets foul, man, gotta reap what you sow. It's grown men out here, grown, I never grow. Lil' bro, might not be my blood, but you my little bro. Care about you, so I really gotta let you know. The streets foul, man, gotta reap what you sow. It's grown men out here, grown, that never grow. Lil' bro, turn on the news, another kid got shot.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, y'all?
Yeah,
welcome to another episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Now, today, I got a very, very special guest in the building, man. I hope a lot of y'all learn from everything that we're going to talk about today. Without further ado, man, can you introduce yourself for a minute?
My name is Demetrius, man.
Demetrius,
known
man.
as D. Some call me D, some call me Meech.
Huh?
Some call me Big Meech.
Huh?
Not Big Meech from Detroit, though.
From Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, from Brooklyn.
All right, man. Look, we're going to kick this right off. Here on How to Beat the Streets podcast, we always get started with a quote. The quote we got for you today is, "The streets is a myth." What's that quote mean to you? Do you believe it? Are you against it? How you feel about that quote right there?
Well, I believe there were certain codes of the street that, they were actually good codes when I was coming up, because it kept stand-up dudes as stand-up dudes, and it kept weak dudes who were scumbags as scumbags. You know what I'm saying? So I believe those codes are still there, but I believe they're not represented in this day and time. And them not being represented, it's as though there are no repercussions if they're not represented. You're still accepted no matter what. So I would say that the street code, I don't believe it's as strong as it used to be.
And I would agree with that too. We got these situations out here. You got the 6ix9ine situation. I know there's a lot of older guys that be like, yo, damn, that would never lasted in our time. Somebody like that to, be rapping and still, doing this thing like he's untouched. And then you got the Gunna situation that's going on. A lot of people don't understand, if he ratted on Young Thug or not. But he still has the #1 album right now. So I had to kick it off by asking you that because I'm like, damn, somebody like yourself who've been through so much, what is your take now being out here on the streets? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
What I'm understanding now, too, is that back then technology wasn't what it was. Social media wasn't what it was. You didn't have cameras everywhere. So, like I said, it came down to repercussions. When you did something that was against the code of the street, you was dealt with. And people knew that the cameras might not catch it. It might not be talked about, so you could move a certain way. Nowadays, nothing is a secret. Nothing is a secret. And at the end of the day, nobody wants to get caught for doing their dirt. Nobody wants to do time in jail. So people get passes now. And I think the suckers, the people are out there doing the scumbag shit, they know this.
That's true. That's definitely true. And we see it all the time, how things have changed over the years. And I feel like it's going to keep progressing or degressing or whatever's going to happen as far as this whole streets aspect. But let's get right into it. So, question of the day, does jail rehabilitate?
Jail? It all depends on the individual.
Break that down.
You have to be willing to change and rehabilitate your motherfucking self in there. Because that environment is not conducive to being rehabilitated at all.
Why you say that?
Because the majority of people in there, they're not trying to change. They're doing time. They're upset. They're disgruntled. They're looking for an avenue to vent, And most of the time, people don't know how to really vent in a productive manner. So that's like the closest to you. You take it out on them.
So it really depends on who you are. If you want to do better, you'll do better. But if you still kind of upset about the circumstances that you're in, then you're going to become.
If you're I always say a man is a thinker, but if you allowing your emotions to get the best of you, you're never gonna make the right choice in your life. You're never gonna make the right choice. You know, because you have to contemplate, you have to sit down, you have to draw some knowledge from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I always say reading books and getting into myself, whether it's self-help books on my physical health, how to eat, it's all conducive to you elevating yourself and evolving as a man, which leads to you making better decisions.
All right, damn. We already took it, you know what I mean? Let's slow down for a second. What's your name and where you from?
Yeah. Demetrius from Brooklyn.
Ooh,
Brooklyn.
okay, we're gonna I got the bomb from Brooklyn. We got a lot of love from Brooklyn.
That's where I was raised at, in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn?
You know, but I was an explorer, so I got around.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you got some ties to Harlem, some ties to the Bronx.
Yeah.
So let's hear a little bit about that.
My grandmother, my grandfather, they were from Harlem. My great grandmother, she was from Harlem.
Okay.
You know, my mother is originally from the South Bronx.
Okay.
My pops is from Brooklyn, Howard Projects. You know, my grandfather, Howard Projects. You know, they was from Brooklyn.
So you got your own little New York City gumbo, like you mixed up with a lot.
Yeah, my uncles from Queens, Jamaica, Queens, South Side. You know, Bristol Hotel back in the day, all of that. So I had a little taste of everything.
So tell us a little bit about your biggest challenge growing up in the streets of New York City.
My biggest challenge was trying to find something that I felt was me. You know, like I wasn't really a follower. I had a creative mind. So I wanted to create. I wanted to do things, you know. Back then, the era was, you know, it was a breakdance era. That's
Around what was the time
that's
period?
What I come up in when hip hop, you know, they was partying in the parks and hooking up cables to the light posts and DJing. So back then, like a lot of people wanted to be the DJ because the DJ was the cool dude. You know, he had the party rocking, he got the girls. So people wanted to scratch the records and all that. Your moms be like, don't scratch my fucking records up. You know, but you scratch them up anyway.
Salute the hip hop.
You know, you make your little tapes and all that. Have your mixtapes. But it was all done from the muscle, you know. Wasn't a whole bunch of advanced technology to help you do this or do that. So it was really a era where you had to be creative and grab what was around you to make it happen.
Okay. So what was your upbringing like your moms, your pops?
Well, my mom's, man, you know, they call her Sister Soldier. You know, because my mom's was all about black empowerment.
That's
so
dope.
that was her thing, but that was her era. You know, fight the power era,
Panther.
you know, Black Panther. You know, so everybody had their time. My mom's come from that time. She was born 1952, I believe. My pops was a little older. He was 1950, I believe. But you know, they had the afros, the dashikis. You know, they do the house parties. They listen to the regular music that black people listened to back then.
It was a
You know,
nostalgic era.
Temptation, stylistics, all of that type of shit. So, you know.
What kind of father you had?
My pops was about the women, man. I ain't going to even.
Papa was a rolling stone.
My pops was about the women, man. You know, he was a cool dude. He was a funny dude. You know, unfortunately, during that era, what was also going on was drugs was being introduced into the community. You know, you had coke, you had heroin, and my pops fell victim to that.
Okay, to the drugs.
Yeah,
During that time, drugs was big too.
Yeah, he fell victim to that.
How did that have an effect on you?
Well, at the time, you know, he was still pops. You know, when you
Family
young,
child.
you just recognize that's my pops.
Okay.
You don't know he dope fiend, or you don't know he's a crackhead, and you know that's pops. He was funny, he entertained, he make me laugh. Still pops. I don't know what you was doing outside of pops, but I found out later on.
All right. Now, how did you get involved into understanding what the streets was? You know, because I feel like as a young boy, we all grow up and we have our fun, we doing our thing, but it's that moment in our life where we start to really come face to face with the streets. Like, okay, this is this is outside.
Yeah, well, I believe it comes from either a painful experience, while you out in the streets, which that's what happened to me, or what you see around you in your environment, and then you feel the need, like, hey, I got to protect myself. This is what's going on out here. So I was exposed to stuff, going to school, riding a bus, public transportation. You see people getting their jewelry snatched, people being pickpocketed, fights going on, and you realize, like, yo, this is the environment I'm in. Like, it's kind of rough and shit.
So what was the situation where you had to adapt? Like, you know what? I'm about to, and in this day and term, they call it jumping out the porch. Like, now it's my turn now. What was that situation?
I was
first situation in the streets.
I grew up with a bunch of uncles. So my uncles kind of exposed me to the shit too. My father's brother, he would always have me fight his friends. I would always see what they doing and shit like that. So I was exposed to that in the projects. I was there. I was a little kid. I was the first nephew, first grandson. So everybody had me with them. So I was seeing shit. I was seeing a lot of shit. Yeah.
And that, from what you've seen, you started to get involved?
I wasn't really involved. They was just like, that was family. That was
normal.
Those are my uncles. That's my pops. So, they do what they do. And I just saw it as normal.
Okay. Now, you end up doing hard time. You know what I mean? Like, how many years you end up doing in prison?
31.
Dang.
31 straight.
31 straight.
Yeah, I had a life without parole sentence. I was actually sentenced to mandatory life without parole. Oof. I didn't even have a sentence in hearing at 17 years old.
At 17 years old.
First time.
Y'all hear that? This is real, man.
Ever being incarcerated. Ever.
Yo, I don't even know what to say right now, because I feel like this situation is so real and it's so meaningful to, like, what I do. You know what I mean? As far as the work I like to do here on the show called How to Beat the Streets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So can you just enlighten us a little bit on how you end up in that situation?
Well, I ended up in that situation, right? I was running around in the streets. My thing was, I like to dress. I like money in my pocket. The public schools back then, the teachers that they had, they weren't really attentive. The schools were overcrowded. Schools was like hangouts. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, the environment grabs you. You gravitate to,
what's going on out there.
Yeah, those were the habits. You cut out from class, you go home, you got a shorty with you. 13, 14 years old, feeling like you on grown man time. Like, you trying to get your dick wet, you trying to, get your money in your pocket, and that's how it started for me. And I just wanted money.
So
that was the whole thing with me. I saw myself on a level of independence, and I thought that money would give me that freedom that I wanted to be grown and to do the shit that I wanted to do.
For the love of money. Yeah. And that's always how it is. So for that particular kid, because it seemed like you ain't really have a lot of back and forth in jail. So to get 31, how they even end up giving you a sentence like that?
Yeah, because it was a drug-related homicide. We was bubbling out of town. We had a house set up. I was bagging up, supplying the house, collect the money, bag up, supply the house, collect the money. But when you dealing in that environment, nothing is, expect the unexpected. Because you dealing with people who get high, you dealing with people who want to rob you, you dealing with a lot of dirty elements. And you dealing with, most of all, you dealing with envy and jealousy. I was out of town. I was a New Yorker, so I was in Philadelphia. They didn't like New Yorkers in their town.
Coming up there to get money.
Nah. We had run-ins with who was in Philadelphia at the time. It was JBM, Junior Black Mafia. Those were the guys from Philadelphia who was actually in the streets at the time making the money. You know, they had a get down, a lay down, and you know, the movie State Property was kind of like a symbol of those times. But you know, being from New York, being from Brooklyn, you was cocky. You know, I ain't care about Philadelphia. You know, I'm coming to get money. You don't like it? Too bad. You know, so you do what you need to do to protect yourself or whatever, and it puts you in that mindset. I wasn't really in the streets like that, but I was a survivalist.
Okay.
You know, so
Do
I
what
had,
it takes.
I had fight in me. I had the courage to fight. I had the courage to confront. So, you know, I go anywhere. I ain't care. And if it was about my money, I'm going to protect my money. But that type of situation that I did 31 years for, that wasn't about protecting money. You know,
So that was just
it was a dirty setup with some dirty cops that used the CI, who was an actual crack addict at the time. They wanted to take over the block because the block was making a lot of money 24/7 out of house. They didn't want to be aggressive, so they calculated a maneuver.
damn.
And they had the fiend, who was actually a CI. He killed another fiend in the house that we was doing business in.
Dang. And they end up
And it wound up the big bad dudes, big bad drug dealers from Brooklyn, New York, who ravished the community with crack cocaine. They're the guilty ones. Yeah.
because
With
y'all out
little-
there.
with little to no, matter of fact, no evidence, no physical evidence, no eyewitness, no gun, nothing. And that's how grimy the game is.
And they was able to still give you that type of time without
They was able to give me that type of time because,
you was there.
yeah, it was amazing to me how that even happened. I thought I was going home. When they said guilty, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, what's going on here?
And that's what I wanted to ask you too. Like, what did it feel like when the judge is like guilty and sentence you, and like even seeing your mom?
The judge didn't say guilty. It was actually a juror. They found me guilty. The judge actually knew that the case was bullshit. You know how you look at somebody and you have eye contact, and they're listening to the witness on the stand. They like, I know this motherfucker's lying. And I looked at him. I was like, and he actually gave me a new trial after I got found guilty by a jury. But I never got the benefit of the new trial because the prosecutor had the right to appeal, went to a high court. They used some facts that wasn't even in evidence, and they flipped it back on me. And then I wound up doing 31 years.
Dang, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like, and just hearing that story just makes me want to like talk to everybody out there, like understand what you're doing out here, because like I feel like sometimes the justice system is not that justice.
Nah, it's not fair play because they're in it for monetary gain. You know, at that time, they building jails. It was mass incarceration. It was the war on drugs. It was all by design to get heads into those cells because it's profitable and it's something to talk about with the politicians who are running for office or whatever, tough on crime. The streets, look, what's going on? Aren't you scared? You know, so everybody is rallying to lock people up.
And this is all at 17 years old.
Yeah, this was at 17. I didn't have any knowledge of the grand scheme, you know, because I'm just living my life. I just wanted to make a little money. But that was that's what you get caught up in if you're not knowledgeable.
So after that court date, you know what I mean, and you finally on that bus about to go to that first place, what did that feel like? I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about these particular things, like when you're on the bus after you got sentenced, when it's sinking into your head, like what that felt like.
It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to feel like you do not know when you will see your family again, when you will be free again. It's different if somebody tell you got a 5 to 10. You know, okay, I got a 5 to 10. You know, so worst case scenario, if I don't get out in 5, I'll get out in 10. But you have a date.
Mm-hmm.
When someone tells you life without parole, guess what? That means that the next time you will be out of there is when you got a tag on your toe. You know, that's what they ask you, where do you want your body sent?
That's
they
crazy.
asked me at 17. I was 18 when I went upstate, but they asked me, where you want your body sent?
They ask you where you want your
Where
body
do you
sent.
want your body sent?
Dang. That's like, how did you even get comfortable, you know what I mean, in that space? Like, understanding what was happening at that very young age. Like,
I was never comfortable. Never comfortable. My whole thing was, I got to get out of here. I'm getting out of here. Because it's different if you know that you did something that warrants that type of sentence.
right.
You know what I'm saying? But if you know that they did something that they weren't supposed to do and it was corrupt, it kind of triggers a fight in you that it fuels you to keep going.
So you had some faith.
Yeah. So I was like, yo, y'all did me dirty, but I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. So I'm fighting. And the only way that I knew how to fight was to try to use their own tools against them, which was the law. But the laws never, they really don't go by it. Not in that state.
And that's a hell of a fight, man. You had to fight for years.
Yeah, I had to fight for years, man. It's like you die and you come back to life. You come up with another plan. You feel like this is the plan, and then you get shot down again. So it's a repetitive, oh, got some life. Bang.
Damn.
They shoot you down.
Takes a strong, resilient man to be able to get through.
Yeah, that's the
those
key
things,
word,
man.
resilience.
Resilient.
Yeah, you have to be very resilient because you're dealing with a lot. Not only the fact that you have to get out or they violated you and did some corrupt stuff in your case, but you dealing with the environment that you're in.
That's what I was going to ask you.
You
Like,
dealing with having to get on the phone. You dealing with motherfuckers running over your time, and you got to enforce, or get aggressive to get your call. You got to be willing, like, it puts you in that mode where I call it savage mode, man, because it's a savage mentality that you have to be in order to counteract some of the bullshit that goes on in there.
can you share like one of your dark moments in there where it was like, damn, I'm really like doing this right now? Like,
the turning point for me was I was kind of pissed off when I first came upstate. So I was young, I was still immature. I knew I wanted to get out, but I was still frustrated from what was done to me. So I kind of like had a vendetta against white people for a minute, because that's all I saw that
took your freedom
their
away.
hands were in play that did this, So I had kind of like a vendetta. So what I was doing, I was taking it out on white boys. If they had something, give me that. You're not supposed to have shit. They tried to take my life. I'm taking whatever you got. Commissary, anything of monetary value, I'm taking that. So at first, that's what I was doing. It was a dude, he was on the same type of time. We go up in his cells, like, sit down, going through your shit. Thank you, shut up, don't say nothing. And for a minute, that was going on, but I found out that's not the way to go.
You ever had like physical altercations where you might have got cut or anything like that?
Nah, I didn't get cut. I didn't get cut in jail. My scars actually came from when I was on the street. When I was in a club, I got ambushed one time. But in there, I didn't get cut. but I did have physical altercations. And it's wild because you come in at 17 and they throw you in there with grown ass men.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Like,
So you gotta learn how, it was good that my uncle always had me on his friends on his knees when I was young, and I used to throw my hands. So I liked to fight. So that, so I didn't have a problem with fighting.
Okay.
Like, all right, bring it. Let's go. Win, lose, or draw, you're gonna respect me. Take my lumps, you're gonna take some lumps, but at the end, you're gonna respect who I am. And that's all I had in mind. So I had my altercations, But after a while, your name, people know, oh, that's so and so. He ain't for that. We not even going to try that again.
now, how was you able to keep the faith? Through all the ups and downs. You know what I mean. You here today, right now. You know what I mean, with us on the podcast, and it's a blessing for you to be here. But how was you able to keep that faith so you could keep, fighting to have this day right here?
On a deep note,
Mm-hmm.
it started before I even went to prison. Because I realized like how strong your mental is. Like things used to happen to me out here that if I think about it and I believe in it, something happens to turn that into a reality.
Gems.
Yeah, something happens. The opportunity comes, something comes your way. And I noticed that from when I was young, from when I was a child. I'd be like, damn, I was just thinking about this. And I believed it. Like I had confidence that I was worthy of this. So here it is.
Power of the mind.
So I always believed in the power of the mind, So that's why I always read, always tried to strengthen my mind up to just keep that confidence, because that's all faith is. It's confidence. It's confidence in what you seeing coming into a reality,
Gems. So you said your mom gave you some great books while you was in there. For any of the brothers that might, never know, YouTube, as we see in jails, a lot of these guys on YouTube. So hopefully one of them bump into this episode. What books would you share with them to help them, get their mind right?
So many books. Man.
Let's get 3, because I know you probably read a lot.
So many books I read. I read Machiavelli. I read The Art of War. I read Francis Cress Wilson. I read. Oh man,
that was a good 3 right there, though.
Yeah, I read so many books, man. It's hard to pinpoint. I read so much. My eyes are bad right now. I got to reading. I got to wear reading glasses because I used to read so much.
That's dope, man. We want to take some time out too to just say salute to you, man, for everything you've done. You know what I mean? To even be here today with us to share gems with brothers like us, just trying to help the community out, man. We just want to say salute to you for everything you've been through, and we happy that you're here living life, man. Gotta show some love for a minute. Word. Now, what would you tell kids that's glorifying this gangster image, though? This show right here, we based in a high school, and it's a lot of kids that's still hungry to be a gangster. Like, it's still out here. I know you know about drill music and all that, and then they promoting a lot of this stuff that could get you 31 years. Yeah, what would you tell them people? I don't think
they really promoting gangster. They promoting thug, because the shit that they doing is reckless thuggery. That's what I call it. Like gangsters are a little more calculating. They have a plan. They move like pieces on a chessboard, and they have some knowledge under their belt, which has them moving like in a military, like on some military time.
So there's a difference between a thug and a gangster.
Yeah, to me. In my definition, yes, it is.
So a thug move more reckless. A gangster got a little bit more militant behind him, structure.
Because my grandpops always told me, he said, you got to be a gentleman before you anything else. And I believe that goes along with being a gangster. Like, you have to be a gentleman. You have to be respectful. You don't violate. You don't do petty stuff. You have it's about,
it's a way to move.
Yeah, like gangsters, they trying to empower themselves. They're trying to look out for their family. They trying to put their family in better positions. If you're doing reckless shit, you can't do that. you actually becoming a burden on your family doing that.
And I think that's why it's important that we talk about it, because I feel like that's lost. Like right now, like 3 days ago in the Bronx, it was a shootout in a park, and a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old got hit. So I'm like, I don't think that these kids is understanding. Like, yo, you're not even moving like like a gangster. This is almost embarrassing. Like, you shooting wildly into parks, playgrounds, hitting anybody, old people getting hit, kids getting hit. There's no money involved. You just hunting other men, and y'all just going back and forth shooting each other, and then eventually getting indicted. A lot of people snitching. Like, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like,
that's definitely not gangster. Because gangsters at least have some type of resources of financial means, you know, to fall back on. Like, they not just doing it just to do it because of an outburst, an emotional outburst, or they think somebody's a sucker, or, you know, nah, I don't.
So what were some of the biggest lessons you learned from being in prison, especially like 25 plus years?
The biggest lesson was patience, man, persistence. Like, there's a process. There's a process to everything. Like, things just don't happen when you want them to happen. You know, although it seems like it's your time, it just may not be your time. You know, so sometimes you have to let the process unfold and just believe that, hey, you know, I can trust in the process. And that was me. I was trusting in the process. Like, people used to say, yo, you don't do no whining, you don't complain, you don't, like, you seem like you good, you know? And I was good. For my mental well-being, I had to be good. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen people in there just lose it. Like, lose it. Like, the disappointments tore a lot of dudes down. You know, over the years, I've seen them looking one way, and 5 or 10 years later, they look like the soul was sucked out of them.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying? The body starts to deteriorate. They start getting all type of grays. They just look bad. You know, like, you could tell the energy of somebody when you look into their eyes. So when people looked at me, I guess they just saw that fire still in me. And it was. That fire never left. I was like, I'm getting out of here, and I'm going to preserve myself, and I'm going to be looking cool. I'm going to be in good health when I get out of here.
That's
That's
dope.
what I said, the power of the mind.
That's fire, man.
Power of the mind.
So how was you able to get back home?
They had a ruling in 2012. There was a guy named Brian Stevenson he was a lawyer in Alabama, and he had the balls to challenge the system and really keep up the fight, like, persistent. And it came out that it was cruel and unusual punishment and a violation of constitutional rights to sentence a child to a mandatory life without parole sentence without considering mitigating factors. Mitigating factors meaning, you know, you don't know how this child was raised. You don't know if he was abused. You don't know what type of circumstances he was under that caused him to commit a crime or to be led into the situation that he was in, to be around others who may have committed a crime, and he may not be fully responsible for that. You know, so it came down to diminished capacity, like the science. They got all into the science of the child brain and how it's not mature until like 25 years old. So being that it's not mature, how can you be held fully responsible? And these are the things that they were saying should have been considered, instead of some of these people just feeling the need to lock up a bunch of children for life because it's a good investment. You don't have to worry about them growing old, having health problems. You don't have to worry about medical fees and all of that. So it was just, you know, all of that came into play and it was talked about.
Wow.
But he was the one, and it was a nationwide ruling. It affected many states. Any state that was doing that, they had to come back, resentence, let them guys out.
So they let you out, man. Let the guard out.
Yeah.
How did that feel, man? Let's talk about some joy now. Talk about a little bit of joy. How did that feel when you got out of there?
It was good, man. Oh man. Whew, that was a hell of a feeling.
So you went in 17, came out what age?
What was I, 49?
Sheesh.
49.
Went in 17, came out 49. Still with a smile on your face.
48. I was 48. Yeah, 48, not 49. 48.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you into now, man, now that you're here in the free world, smelling this good air?
Right now, paying taxes.
See what I'm saying? Dudes complain about that.
Paying taxes, man.
But you love it.
I'm working. I've been working since I got out, man. But that was my thing. I always wanted to earn mines. And what led to me going out of town, which a lot of people didn't know, was I went for job interviews and all that. Like, I got my diploma, and people were telling me, once you get your diploma, you know, things will work out, and I stopped doing the little things that I was doing in the streets, which wasn't a whole lot, but I was doing my little thing. I was boosting, I was selling my little weed, you know, but I stopped doing all of that to try to follow a path that somebody said would work for me. So soon as it didn't work for me, you know, they didn't tell me that, yo, they really not trying to hire young blacks. Like, you the last one on the list to be hired if they have other ethnicities in front of you. And that's what was going on. That's the truth of the matter, you know.
And that's why it's important for us to talk about this, because it's like, it's something broken in the system, because it's like, damn, even for me sometimes, like, as a young man, you know, you go out, get your degree, do all these things, but it's not like it's jobs just waiting for you. You know what I mean? You still have to put in so much work, and then you still have people who might overlook you just because of who you are, your color, your skin, where you come from, how you articulate yourself. And it's like, damn, I'm trying to better myself, but it's still so hard and so competitive. And then you still have these challenges being a black man. Yeah. And that's what, you know, gets a lot of brothers in so much trouble and even incarceration, because you can try the positive path, but sometimes that still might be a long journey, you know.
I always say nobody is born wanting to do criminal shit. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to say, hey, man, I'm just going to get out of here and I want to do this. Nah, because if there were jobs available, so I say, hey, you can earn money doing this. You know, you don't have to be out there. Because for real, being in the streets, man, it's not a good feeling. It wasn't a good feeling for me having to be on point and watch my back, feeling like somebody might shoot me or somebody might try to rob me or take what I had, or, you know, it's not a good feeling. Right. Just to be in that mindset, you know, it's not good for your nerves or none of that. Like, it takes you to a place that me, myself, I really didn't want to be.
So now that you're home and free, man, what's the number one thing that brings you peace, man? Put a smile on your face.
Oh, right now, what brings me peace and put a smile on my face is my son, man.
Salute.
You know, my son. He's 10 months old. I never thought that I would see the day. Yeah.
I'll clap it up for that, man. Love to see it.
Yeah, well, I have a child, man, because, you know, they told me I was going to die in prison.
And one day you get to tell him all these stories, man. Or you can watch this podcast when you get older. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah. So this part of the show, we call it the Mama Love Gems, man. I love to hear, you know, people share gems that their mother once told them. So just share a piece of advice your mother gave you coming up, or even now, that could benefit the audience.
Well, my mom's always told me be respectful. You know, mind your manners. You know, she taught me manners. Yes. No, thank you. No, thank you. You know, appreciate it. You know, so I always keep that in mind. I always am respectful until someone is not respectful, then I just get away from you. You know,
that's dope.
Like, I'm not going to meet disrespect with disrespect. If I come respectful and you choose to be disrespectful, something is wrong with you. You know?
Something wrong with
Something
you.
is wrong with you.
Michelle Obama said they go low, we still go high. Fire.
Yeah.
Now, putting you on segment, you know, can you just share with us anything that helped you keep a positive mindset? Book, movie, podcast, song. You know what I mean? Something that just keeps you in that positive space. So people could probably, go shop that, go listen to that, or watch that.
Well, one of the things that, like, my era, man, like I said, I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of ideas that I saw other people, turn into a reality.
Right.
And a lot of dudes that know me personally, they know that I was an innovator. So they know I was a little bit ahead of the game with, like, trying to polish yourself up. I wanted to do clothing lines, things like that. So to see dudes from my environment actually do that, it made me think positively. Like, okay,
Who's like one of those people?
like the Puffs, the Jay-Z's, anybody who
Big Daddy Kane and all them.
Yeah, the Kane, all of them dudes that, they took what they had and made something out of it, turned it into something.
Limits to Lemonade.
Yeah.
Now, I think one day your story could be a movie, man, for real. Like, I could, just talking to you, I could see myself, like, in a theater, like, watching this movie,
Yeah,
man.
everybody says that.
For real, you might have to put that together.
And I say it could be a story also because there are many phases that I went through.
Books.
Like, I went through the 70s, being on 125th Street when the heroin was in effect, strong in the 70s because of the guys that were in play at that time, the Nicky Barnes, the Frank Matthews, all of these dudes that, they was trying to get it how they can get it, and it was affecting the community. But I saw it as a child. I saw the dilapidated buildings. I saw the dope fiends nodding on 125th, where I asked my moms, damn, why, what's wrong with them?
What kind of dance is that, man?
You seeing all type, you see the dope fiends, and they nodding, they not hitting the floor, but they nodding all the way down to the floor, or leaning all the way back. And
been through a lot, seen a lot.
You wonder why. But those times, then you had the
80s.
The DJs, like I said,
hip-hop.
The hip hop, the Grandmaster Flashes, and the Sweet G's, all of them, the old school, the Curtis Blows, and all of that. I remember all of that. I remember I was captivated by that, and I know that what it was doing for the community.
Right. So, if they was giving you a deal right now, multi-million-dollar deal, but they asked you, like, what is the 3 key takeaways from your story that we're going to convey in this movie? What would be the 3 key takeaways?
The 3 key takeaways.
That when we walk out the theater, this is what we learned from your story.
I always say resilience, man.
One.
And the power of the mind.
Okay.
Because I always want that to be conveyed, because it was my mental toughness and belief in myself that allowed me to persevere through all of that. And I've been through a lot of shit. I had guns put to my temple, where dudes say, yo, I'll blow your fucking head off. And in my mind, I was like, I wasn't scared. And I was like, he's not gonna pull the trigger though.
How to beat
And
the
he
streets.
didn't pull the trigger.
So we got resilience, power of the mind.
I've had my scars, I've had my experiences. It's so much.
What's that third one?
That I think about. I'm like, damn, you've been through all of that shit. I've been through group homes, in the Bronx, and Soundview, and White Plains Road. I went to schools in the Bronx. I went to schools in Brooklyn. I ran on Boston Road. I used to party at the rooftop. I used to go to the S&S spot, gamble. All of that.
It's the NYC legend right here,
Willie
man.
Burgers, like, and I did it on a humble because I was just exploring New York City. And that was just what New York City was about at that time for a young black man, young black boy. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were doing. So money making era. After Scarface came out, everybody wanted to get money. You know,
You lived through a lot.
I saw breakdancing crews turn into drug dealing crews. You know, I know dudes that lost their life that were break dancers, but as soon as they tried to transition over to something else and they started wearing the jewelry and all of that, then the stick up kids come into play, the envy came into play, and it changed the dynamics of what was going on in New York City. Ooh. Because at one time things were wholesome. You had house parties, you had dollar parties, it was more like a community type of thing where people were showing love, you know. But it seemed like soon as the materialistic stuff came into play and people started getting money, you know, the division came out, the envy came out, people started getting killed, people started getting robbed, and it turned into something else, you know. And that whole congestion of wanting to get money in New York City, it was so much competition, and people don't know that's what led to people going out of town.
Damn. Sound like to me like, so if this is the movie, that third one would be like the lifestyle of a New York City black young boy, man.
Going out of town, get that. Going to D.C., when D.C. was the murder capital and all of that. Like going to Philadelphia, setting up things in Philadelphia. You had the West Indian dudes, the shower posse dudes that was out there in Philadelphia doing what they do. So everybody was hating people that came from New York because they thought everybody that came from New York, because of the accent, they thought they was West Indian or Jamaican, and they didn't like the shower posse because the shower posse, you know, they was known for clapping shit and being reckless and, you know, the whole
Seen
nine.
it all, man.
Yeah.
So we gonna end with this, man. Finish this statement. Right now, Demetrius is
on man time.
And there you have it,
on man time.
I like that, man. You got anything you want to promote?
No emasculating going on. I'm trying to be a responsible man out here. I'm trying to raise my little man, you know, and I'm just trying to keep it simple, man. I'm not trying to make things difficult because I've been through too many difficult times, man. You know, it's not about being difficult at this point. It's just about me appreciating the fact that I'm alive, I'm out here, I'm free. You know, I can affect somebody else's life in a positive manner, and that's all I'm trying to do, man.
Salute, man.
And keep it real. I can only speak from my experiences of what I know. I'm not trying to fake it or be anybody that I'm not. And I don't suggest anybody else do that, because if you do that, the real individuals recognize it's not coming off too real. You're not authentic. You know, real recognize real.
And I tell you live, man, you got a positive effect on me and my brother, man. Just from hearing you talk and seeing how you move and all that, man, you already had an effect on us, man. So keep doing what you're doing. And we got it, man. Dope episode, man. How to beat the streets, man.